There is one thing that will always make a difference, no matter what you're suffering from, that has a positive impact on every single person's health. How severe it is, if you've got multiple things going on, whatever it is, and that is remembering that we are part of nature, that nature is part of us, and that being a human being, an animal, means that we need to be connected to nature whenever we can, as often as we can, to be happy and healthy human beings, and to have a happy and healthy planet and soil and animals and insects and everything. We're all part of the same cycle. We're all part of this we're all part of nature, and we have caged ourselves, being stuck indoors, staring at screens, eating out of boxes, and we wonder why we're all so unwell, because we're all basically nature deficient. And that is why when I recovered from chronic fatigue syndrome, I wanted to move into nature. I recovered in a city, so it is possible to do what you can where you are with what you've got, but I wanted to, after that, live in nature and more connected to it and more in a more natural way, because it's much easier for us to thrive then. It's very difficult for us to thrive if we're sat under LED lights and staring at screens all the time and eating unnatural foods, especially if they're not seasonal and local and natural to us. Lots of carbohydrates and very little proteins and fats and things like that. That's not what our animal side of us thrives on. But it's not the only thing that makes a huge difference. It's the light, it's the earth, it's the water, it's the air, it's the thoughts. It's living in a really natural way has a huge impact on your mental, physical health and happiness, and that of our communities and of our planet too. So I know that a lot of people can't get outside right now. They're too unwell, and then they give themselves a hard time because they can't do the thing that somebody on the internet has told them that they need to do to be well. But you do what you can with what you have where you are, and you let go of the rest, because then that stops us dysregulating our nervous system as well. So if you have a doctor's appointment every other week, or a dentist appointment, or an appointment with a bank manager, or something that you have to leave the house for, and you make the most of that, you get the driver to stop and you put your feet on the earth, or you put your hands on a tree, you open the window, you stop and get some spring water from somewhere that's got lots of lovely minerals in it, or you remineralize your own filtered water with something like fulvic minerals. That's the equivalent of how spring water used to be for us. It used to be full of minerals, but now it's usually full of rubbish, and of course we filter it, and then any minerals that were left in it are gone. So adding something like fulvic minerals helps to mimic what we would have had from nature anyway. To definitely not be looking at screens overnight, first thing in the morning, last thing at night. We really want that sun or that daylight in our eyes first, at sunrise and at sunset. Super important to not be wearing sunglasses and sun creams and things and scared of the sun. We need the sun or the daylight on our skin. We need it in our eyes. It's what tells all the clocks in the body what to do, how to sleep, regulate our hormones, our digestive system, everything. So if you've been doing all the right things and you're still struggling with that kind of thing, then maybe it's because you are nature deficient. You are looking at screens instead of looking at the light. Have someone drag a chair up to the window and go sit at the window and open the window at sunrise and sunset as much as you can, and get that light on your skin and in your eyes. Just breathing fresh air, switching the heating off and going to the window and getting some fresh air in. As I said, touching the trees, touching shrubs, anything to get your skin in contact with the earth. Having bare feet as often as possible. I know that's a bit uncomfortable for some people, some parts of the year, but doing what you can. If you can't get your feet out, then touch a tree, touch a shrub, put your hand on the grass. Do whatever you can, as I said, where you can with what you've got. The geese have no problem doing that and telling everybody about it. If that's what you can hear them making a racket now. Learning from nature, learning from the animals, you see it yourself. If you go to a zoo and you see a tiger in a cage, it's made a groove on the ground where it's paced up and down, because it is mentally and physically not well. We're doing the same to ourselves by staying indoors and locking ourselves in these boxes and under these false lights and staring at these screens that that are also bad for us. So if you do find yourself needing to stare at screens and be under LED lights, is wearing things like blue light blocking glasses and using grounding sheets or grounding mats or whatever you can to help yourself to be more connected to nature as often as possible, because this really is a game changer. As I said, it makes a difference for our circadian health. So that is the circadian clock is what runs every other clock in the body. So that is impacting your sleep if you're sleeping badly. That is impacting your digestion, your hormones, everything. Remembering that this isn't something woo-woo. This is something that we as animals need. We need to be connected to nature. And when we don't, we become unwell. We become disconnected, not just from ourselves and our bodies and how our bodies should work, but disconnected from all sorts of weird and wonderful things that help us to really thrive in this world. So if you are struggling right now and you feel like you've been doing all the things that everybody on the internet tells you to, but you're not connecting to nature, then I really recommend that you find ways every day in your own way with what you have to connect to something that is a part of us and we should be a part of it. And I can pretty much guarantee that within a few weeks, sometimes even just a few hours or days, but a few weeks, you would start to notice big changes in your overall health and well-being. And then if you follow that up with other ways, with dietary changes and stuff, and eating in a much more seasonal, local way as much as you can, buying things, even if it's from the supermarket that says it's from your country at least, and not eating the same foods every day throughout the year, thinking that that's a good, healthy superfood. That's not the way we would have eaten, and we don't have the microbiome to deal with that sort of way of eating. So, looking at how we as humans would have eaten, we as animals would have eaten, locally, seasonally, naturally, and not what someone like me on the internet tells you to eat because it's a superfood or because it's going to fix this or do that. When doing all these things that I've talked about actually helps things like, say, mitochondria and stuff like that, that we're always searching and hoping to fix. When we're struggling from things like chronic fatigue syndrome, well, doing things like focusing on your circadian health and eating in a much more natural way is going to fix that for you without some weird and wonderful supplement that's costing a fortune. And just on a side note, things like organ meats, particularly things like heart, has way more coenzyme Q10 than any supplement you can get. This is something that I think most people forget, is that they think that people were eating organ meats because they were poor or something, but they would always eat organ meats because they would eat nose to tail of an animal, but they wouldn't eat it in huge quantities, but they wouldn't need it in huge quantities because they were doing all the other stuff to help their health, all this natural circadian yumminess to help health. So when we are fueling ourselves in every single way, not just food, all the other ways I've just mentioned, our health really starts to shift and we start to feel not so much like a caged animal, feeling lacking and longing for all that outside world. We are actually looking after ourselves and our health in such a simple and easy way that makes such a huge difference overall. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to pop them below. I know it feels maybe a little challenging for some people, but I can definitely give prompts or hacks of what you could do where you are with what you've got. And remember that I also have 15-minute free discovery calls that you can book through the link below on my website, so that if you think that some one-to-one coaching might help, you feel a bit lost, you don't know what to focus on, then you can book one of those. But also just to remember that if you're feeling lost and you don't know what to focus on, it's usually because you've got waylaid or you've got distracted by all the pills, potions, lotions, supplements, superfoods, when actually the good majority of what makes us well is nature.